And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is another patron roster review. This is Jolly Green Herb with Notorious Separatists. What's happening, Notorious Separatists? And Jolly Green Herb, you are doing pretty well for yourself. You've been a little bit of a dolphin over the last year and a half. Not too bad. I looked at your inventory, and it looks pretty sparse, so not a lot of investment except for your primary arena squad, which makes complete sense. And you asked about your arena team and should you mix it up, and you are working on General Kenobi to replace Old Ben. I also think that you're working on Han Solo, or I'd like to think you're working on the OG Han Solo to eventually replace Ezra, as those two are the ones that I would replace once you have those raid rewards leveled up and maxed out, even at 5 stars. As long as they're 5-star gear 11, you'll be just fine. Now, until that, in the meantime, when you're waiting on General Kenobi to replace Old Ben and waiting on Han Solo to replace Ezra, this team composition for what you have in your inventory, and we can look, is really kind of the best opportunity. You don't, everything goes down to gear 8 and 9 pretty quickly. There's not a whole lot in here for you to choose from. And so because of that, again, we're going to have to stick with what you have, but that's not a problem. The team that you have is going to work really, really well. For modding, you're going to want to make sure that CLS is fast. So a speed set if you can. If not, critical chance and critical damage. Also secondaries, critical chance, secondaries, and then critical damage on the triangle for sure with a speed arrow. With R2-D2, it's really all about that speed and then potency, because he does apply that stun, which you will want him to inflict. So speed set, if you have it, the same goes for Thrawn's speed set, but instead of potency, you'll want protection because he regenerates his protection. So this is a pretty durable team because R2-D2 is very tanky just as a character. CLS is going to regenerate health and protection, and Thrawn regenerates protection on himself and another at 40%. That's a huge whopping amount. And Old Ben, it doesn't matter if he dies because he's just going to buff the team. So really not a big deal with your Old Ben or General Kenobi when you get him. It's going to be all about getting them to approximately 200 speed, and then the rest protection primaries on all of it but the arrow, and make them as tanky as possible. I know with Old Ben, some people say you should give up some protection for potency, and you can do that if you want to make sure that his debuffs land. Other people don't care if that stuff lands because under CLS it just turns into turn meter for the team anyway. So there's that thought process as well. And Ezra's a lot like CLS. You're going to want critical chance and critical damage mods with speed secondaries. But all in all, your arena team looks pretty good for being, and you had said you just recently kind of went free to play, meaning you've stopped spending money in the game. And so for not spending money recently in the game and just going, cold turkey on the spending, you're doing really well. You're probably able to kind of get into that top 100. Obviously, keep your eye out for better mods in the mod store that you can purchase whenever the credit heist comes around. Make sure you save some of those credits for a couple of good mods, and then you'll be able to take that off. You did ask about Zetas, the next couple of Zetas that you might want to do. And truth be told, we don't want to put Zetas on any character that might be pulled out of here, but Han Solo, I didn't even see him in your inventory. It would be a while before you use him, and you can use this Zeta anytime, and that's Flourish. Ezra is now your main damage dealer aside from CLS, and Flourish makes him do a ton more damage. So I would highly recommend this. It also, Ezra is a critical component in heroic AAT teams, and you can use them in the Sith raid. And so there's a lot of good viability and usability. This won't be wasted at all. So the Flourish Zeta is one I would definitely consider since he's your main damage dealer. The next is actually going to be combat analysis on R2-D2, and the reason for that is for, again, the raids, and also to give yourself a cleanser on the team. The way this works is you Zeta this, and then everybody crits, and when they crit, they get cleansed. They cleanse themselves. So all the debuffs won't stick. They'll just cleanse themselves of all of those debuffs. And then, of course, the third one that I would recommend is going to be in here, and it's actually, it binds all things, because it binds all things gives turn meter to the whole team. So it's a really, really good Zeta. It's actually the first Zeta I recommend for CLS to people when they are Zetaing CLS. You did his leadership, which is fine, and that's one I would eventually recommend for you, but but because you do not have binds, I would make it binds all things the number one priority, with number 2 being R2-D2's combat analysis, and then number 3 being the flourish on Ezra. And that should significantly improve this team, and continue to look for mods and replace mods here and there, making them faster. With a faster Ezra, R2, Thrawn, and CLS, you'll just continue to climb. Again, this particular team that you have is susceptible right now because you have old Ben as your only tank, and what happens is they fracture before he taunts, and he's just kind of out of the game. So that's why you're getting your General Kenobi up. You know this, and that's why you're going to bring him in and replace old Ben with General Kenobi. So good on you for that. So we've gone over Arena and Zetas. Let's talk about ships really quick. You're kind of using what you've got. You know the team, and you actually have the team that I use. So you know exactly who you should develop. But that's kind of where it ends for you. And that's the issue that we got to talk about, because you want to do the Akbar challenge, but you're going to have to keep developing your light side ships if you're going to want to get through the Akbar challenge. And there's the only way to do it. There's a few ways to do it. One, you've got to be able to keep a dispeller available, so when the mace ship throws that false taunt, or that taunt, that you can dispel it, so you can keep targeting. The clone ships do so much damage, and Rex regenerates their protection. You really got to get Rex out of there, and as soon as you can get Rex out of there, then you can start focusing on all those clone ships that do all of the damage. But at the end of the day, it takes really good RNG to beat the Akbar challenge, and you're going to have all your ships basically maxed. I had all my characters at gear 10, all my pilots at gear 10, with all their ships at 7 stars maxed out, and it still took a bit of RNG for me to get through it. In my opinion, the Akbar challenge is the most difficult challenge in the game because it's very RNG dependent, and you have to have virtually everything maxed out, where a lot of other challenges you don't have to have things maxed out. I have seen people do it with not maxed out stuff, but they would tell you that is because of RNG. So just keep plugging along, developing your ships, and you will get there. But remember, keep your dispeller until the taunt occurs, and just try and take out Rex first, and then all of the clone ships, because they're the damage dealers, and they're what are going to be the damage that you take. So other than that, you definitely want to focus on Sunfac as a ship potential to work on. He's got a stun, and he's a tank, so he can come back. He can come out as a second backup, and he'll be a second tank that taunts, and he stuns, and he does target lock. So there's this stuff that he gets to do that's really, really good, and he's really slow, so he'd be good in a back lineup. But looking at your lineup, he'd be someone that you have that you could actually utilize. The very first person that you should actually have in your back lineup is the Scimitar, and I'm sure that's the case. There's many options for that first slot, and I've used many, and they all work very well. But the Scimitar is hands down the best first backup ship because of the stealthing mechanism and the extra added offense and retribution, plus the additional target locks as people come into the lineup. So Scimitar would be your number 1. I would probably recommend Sunfac as your number 2 for durability on defense, because they got to kill this thing before your ultimate goes off. And so they got to work through another tank. Very frustrating. And he's a disruptive tank, a disruptive taunting tank. So very fun. The last 2, you don't have a 4th slot yet because you haven't maxed out your Thrawn ship. But for that 3rd and final slot for now, I would actually recommend Poe Dameron's X-Wing. This is a guaranteed kill on the Imperial TIE Fighter that dodges. And so because of that, you're going to have to get your Poe Dameron leveled up, and then you're going to also have to get his ship finished off. But this is it. Perfect shot. This deals physical damage, can't be evaded, and always scores a crit against protection-free enemies. So this is why this ship is so popular. It's also the fastest ship in the game, so definitely a worthy ship to focus on. So that's what I would suggest for ships: Scimitar, Sunfac, Poe Dameron's X-Wing. Keep developing all of your ships. You'll be fine. You're going to get there. It just takes time, and trust me, I hear you. The Akbar challenge is, in my opinion, the toughest singular challenge in the game. I know you're also getting prepared for Jedi Training Rey, and you've got BB-8 and Rey Scavenger, and you've got Finn, so those guys are ready to go. But obviously, when we come to the veteran smugglers, you've got veteran smuggler Han, who you're chugging along. You got him 6 stars. Keep going. Get them to 7 stars. And then veteran smuggler Chewie. Get him, obviously, from 4 to 7 stars. These 2 guys should be your first priority for real. I know everyone that says, well, when she comes around next time, you know, they change things all the time. Sometimes they say it's going to be 4 months and then it's 2 months. You don't want to be caught with your pants down. So definitely focus on the veteran smugglers now. Get them leveled up. Get them geared up. We know this takes time. And by the time you get them both to 7 stars, gear 8 or 9, she's going to end up popping up as an event, and you'll be very happy that these became your hyper focus. But also your ships, any crew member that you use should be focused on as well. So if you've never used this, it's a crew member filter. I would definitely recommend it. It kind of gives you a snapshot of all the crew members and where they're at. And anyone you're using in Ships Arena, if Ships is really important to you, and it sounds like it is, I would definitely recommend you getting these guys to gear 12. Your regular arena team and your crew members should all be gear 12. Those should be number 1 and number 2 priorities for gear 12. So that means Darth Vader should continue to be developed. Death Trooper, Darth Maul, Biggs Darklighter, TIE Fighter Pilot, the First Order TIE Fighter, Shore Trooper. These are all characters that you're using as crew members, and at minimum focus on your top 5 ships that you're using in your top 5 and continue to develop them, because as you develop, so are other people, and you want to stay ahead of the curve and try and be as competitive as possible. And if you just say, they're 11, that's good enough, people will continue to pass you up, and things in ships will get harder and harder and harder. So Jolly Green Herb, it was a pleasure chatting with you today. I hope that you have found some use for this. If there's something you feel like I've missed or something that you'd like to discuss, hit me up on Discord. You know where to find me. And Notorious Separatists, shout out again to you guys as well. For a year and a half, or a little under a year and a half, not bad at all. As always, make sure you keep your gaming on. Warrior out.